Hey folks, it's Frithgar here, how you doing? Welcome back to Farming Simulator 19 here in Erlengrat. As I suspected, France and Germany do share a border. I just wanted to check how big a border it was. It's about 450 kilometers long, just about 280 miles. Some of it is a mountainous region. It's not massive mountains, it's not like the full-blown big Alps, but there are mountains there. And so that would naturally separate the two countries. Other parts of the border are right along the river, I think it's the Rhine. And the thing with a big river is that for many, many years, a big river is a complete separation of one place from another. These days, we build bridges, big bridges, and they go across the rivers. But many years ago, even a mid-sized river was enough to separate two groups of people completely, to the point where they could develop completely separate languages from one side of the river to the other. So Germany and France had got an awful lot separating out the countries, and not just that, there's also the fact that Germany and France were, you know, different border areas and the lines change and so on. But you had one group in one part of Europe and another group in another part of Europe, and the languages have developed to such an extent that despite the fact that they're pretty much neighbors, the languages that the two countries speak don't sound anything like each other. And yes, there are some similarities that can be picked up, but they're vastly, vastly different from many of the other languages. Now, Germany is quite unique in that where it's positioned, it seems to have language influences from large chunks of all different areas of Europe, and also its language is quite a bit different from most of the other languages in Europe. There's a lot of similarities between French and a number of other languages, and there's similarities. There's groups of languages that do sort of have quite a few similarities between them. There's differences, obviously, but there's quite a few similarities. So if you can speak one of them, it's a lot easier to learn to speak one of the others. German is a little bit different, at least as far... this is where people can feel free to step into the comments and say, well, you clearly don't know what you're talking about. Okay, maybe I don't, but from what I have been able to establish so far, German is quite a bit different from just about any other language in Europe, and is therefore sufficiently different from any of the other languages in Europe that it makes it uniquely difficult to learn. The only other one that has this kind of wonderful tag on it is English. Again, uniquely difficult to learn, and more difficult than most of the other languages. So there's two right there that do present some problems. We just drop that one down there like that, and then we're going to go up over here, and we're going to go and get that cultivator on, and the electric tractor is going to go and do some other work. It's going to go and pick up the blower, and it's going to take it over to the what do you call, the biogas plant. We're going to shunt a little bit of that in. We can't go and put any fertilizer on our potatoes over here. We're just going to come up here like this. And I'm going to press H right there like that. I'll lower you down, unhitch that one, and we'll come over like this. So yeah, anyway, the English and German do seem to be sort of fairly unique. I mean, English does make a lot of sense, considering that a lot of our language developed while we were in Ireland, and therefore we were quite a long way from most of the other parts of Europe. But that's not the only reason that our language developed quite a bit different. It's the main reason. We can stick with that. There's a lot. We do have a lot of these days. We have a lot of French words in, on account of the last people that ever conquered us were the French. Old William the Conqueror, he came along and decided that our country was better than his country, and so he'd have a slice of that one. But that was almost 1,000 years ago, so it's been quite a while since we've had anybody come over and take our country for their own. But it's the whole groups of languages. So you all the way that languages sound, and then you get all these different phrases that develop in different parts of the world, in different. Not even the whole world. Like, let's just look at the European continent, and you look at you can look at the US as well, or Canada. You have different phrases that develop in different parts of the country that make no sense to people that don't live in that part of the country. And people in that part of the country will use it all the time. And people outside of that particular region have got no clue what you're talking about when you say such things. Or they just think it sounds really, really weird, the phrases you're using. It's understandable and it does kind of make sense. It just seems like a really odd thing to go saying. And it sort of amazes me the way these things develop and how they change over time. And I remember reading somewhere that language development has sort of slowed down a bit since the dawn of the information age. So now we share ideas and confirmations of things, and usage is formalized and used sort of general use across the board. But it doesn't completely stop everything from being changed. Like, there are phrases, there are words and so on that slowly fall out of use over time. It's just slowed the process down a little bit. Now that we can talk to people from all over our country, whichever country you're in, it just slows the development of new words and getting rid of old words. So now we've got this word yeet, which means to throw. And I hear people say it all the time, it's just ridiculous, it's not a real word, it's not a word, it doesn't count. If a word is used regularly by a group of people, regardless of whether or not you like the word, or you feel, regardless of whether or not you feel that this word should have come into common usage in the first place, the fact of the matter is, if it's used regularly by a large number of people, the word exists. And if enough examples are used, eventually that word makes its way into the dictionary. And I don't actually know if the word yeet has yet made it into any official dictionaries, but I do know for certain that it won't be long before it does if it hasn't yet, because it's universally used now by not just people in the UK, but by all the English-speaking countries. It may not be used by people who are more than 40 years old on a regular basis, but that doesn't stop it from being a word. Just because some people get upset by the idea that this word yeet is now, and I'm using this word as my example, there are plenty of other words that have come into use that weren't being used before and now are, and people have complained bitterly about the fact that the word even exists. Yeet started out as just a slang word, being used by kids in schools. And this is where a lot of words actually originate from. Slang words being used by kids in school. And then the word becomes a little bit more accepted. And those kids grow up using that word. And because they've already grown up using that word, more and more people then come in at the bottom end of the scale. And it's still being used in school, so they use it as well. And not only that, you then have the next generation of people who start using the word. You've still got the previous generation of people who are using the word. And so the number of people using it increases. And if you get enough people that don't dislike it, it becomes more widely used in the general population as well. And that's the thing that's happened with yeet. This word didn't start being used in school until long after I left school, but I use it from time to time now. My kids use it all the time, and I hear enough people using it and know, what it's all about. It's not always to throw. Yeet is kind of like it is still a slang word for throwing, but at the same time, it sort of has particular times of being used and not being used. It's more not just to throw something, but to throw something without particular care and attention of where it lands or where it goes. So if you were to say that someone playing sports, baseball, for example. Let's use baseball. I don't know very much about baseball, but I do know that some fella stands in the middle of the field and he lobs a ball at the fella holding the bat. Now, this is generally referred to as pitching or throwing. Yeeting wouldn't be appropriate in that particular instance. He doesn't yeet the ball because he doesn't just throw it without care and attention of where it's going to land, whereas to yeet is generally just to fling it away. And so it wouldn't really be full use, well, appropriate use of the word. Now, I'm saying all this because I don't think that it actually has an official I don't think it's actually been officially sort of recognized as a word yet. If it hasn't, it will do very soon. It will not be, like, I'm not sure, because they add new words to the Oxford English Dictionary every single year. And I'm not sure if this one has made it into the dictionary yet. There are a few criteria that a word must meet in order to be actually officially entered into the Oxford Dictionary, and one of them is general use. But general use and examples of general use given in certain areas. So I'm not sure if it has to be general use and in for written language as well as just spoken language. I think it might also have to be used in written language as well as spoken language. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure on how the whole process works, but it's still quite fascinating that this word that didn't exist a few years ago is already has reached the point where if it's not yet, it will very soon be another word in the dictionary, and it will officially be a word. So it's a new word that has turned up in the English language that wasn't there before, that has kind of a unique use as well. It's not just to throw. It's like there's more to it than that. There's nuance to that word. It's not just a simple replacement for a previous existing word. It's added an extra word to the English language that has a specific use. And that's what I find quite fascinating, is the fact that this particular word, that's why I've picked this one out just to talk about quickly, was just because of the fact that this word has just come about and is being used, but it has a unique... We don't have a word... I suppose lob, to lob something, might arguably be used as a word that is for throwing without particular care and attention to where it lands. And that's generally the usage I've seen of the word yeet. Is it Y-E-E-T is the only way I've ever seen it spelled. But yeah, I find that quite interesting. So I don't know about the rest of you. Let me know in the comments section if there's any particular words that you've heard used that you find sort of quite fascinating by the way these words, that they weren't there before. These words weren't used even just a few years ago. They're brand new. They've just turned up one day. You don't know where they came. Like, my kids started using the word, and I started hearing it on YouTube videos at about the same... YouTube videos that they were watching about the same time that they started using it. But it wasn't just my kids. It was other people as well who I know don't usually watch YouTube videos. And they were also using the word. And it was entirely young people under the age of 20 that were using it first, but it's very quickly spread, and now I hear it being used by all kinds of people, although admittedly I don't think I've ever heard anyone over the age of 60 use that word yet. So if you're over the age of 60, now is your time to shine. You can join the revolution and start using the word yeet. But there are other... obviously there's other words as well, and I can't think of any offhand, which is why I've particularly gone for this one. But they add new words to the dictionary every single year. And yes, they don't usually take words out of the official English dictionary. Once they're in there, they're there to stay. It's just that they fall out of common use, and you don't generally use them very much. The meaning of words tends to change as well over time. My mum had a horse when she was a teenager called Gay Lady, and it was the word gay when in the 70s was only just then starting to be applied to more than just a person who was happy. It just meant happiness, or just happy. But now that has changed completely, and it's very, very, very rare that you find that word being used to mean someone or something who's happy. It's got an entirely different meaning. It means your orientation instead. And so the meaning of the word itself hasn't changed, but the general consensus, the general accepted meaning of the word has changed. And that's also quite interesting, that it's not something that was planned. It's not something that was kind of officially said. There wasn't someone who just happened to go along there one day and say, right, today we're officially changing the meaning of this word. It's just through general use by the general population. The meaning of the word slowly changed over time. And now it's unusual in a conversation to hear the word gay being used as meaning someone who is just happy. And there are other words as well, but I'm sure I could think of some if I really thought about it long and hard, but I can't actually think of any offhand. It was just another example. There's one that's always stuck with me because of the fact that because of the name of my mum's horse. But again, it's one of those things that you don't really think about all that much, but we're actually seeing our language, that the English language is actually evolving and changing right before our eyes. I heard, actually I think it was my English teacher when I was in school, who said that now we are sharing things around the world, and with that, he was quite forward thinking. In the 90s, he was one of the ones that said the internet is going to change the world and we're going to communicate a lot more with each other because of it. Whereas there were still plenty of people, plenty of top business leaders at the time who said the internet was just a fad and it wasn't going to be successful in the mid-90s. And we all know what happened to, well, generally what happened to the companies that thought along those lines. Most of them don't really exist anymore. Was it Kodak? I think it was Kodak who said that, yeah, digital cameras were a waste of time and didn't really bother with them. And that ended up hurting them big time. There was Blockbuster who said that online video rental was a complete and total waste of time and they weren't going to bother with it. And the likes of Netflix weren't any kind of concern for them because people are always going to want the physical copies of the discs to be able to play. You can't stream stuff. You can't just play it through online. And again, it comes down to ideas and thoughts that didn't age well. So those things change. Things go wrong. The meanings of things change. But there was this English teacher I had who said that the English language used to evolve quite quickly. You go back 1,000 years, and you have Old English, and then you go forward a bit, and you've got Middle English, and yada yada yada. And so English language has changed over the years, and it changed. The difference between Old English and Middle English is quite considerable. Old English to English that we have now is pretty much two different languages. You can still recognize it, but it's hugely, hugely different. There are massive differences between the two. And he said that the English language, now that we are sharing all of these ideas around the world, he said the English language won't evolve anymore. That's it. Now that we have all this standardization, you won't see the evolution of language anymore. It will stop evolving. That one he got wrong. The internet bit, he got right. But the whole bit about the English language stopping evolving, or any languages stopping evolving. They were just going to sort of be locked, because now you didn't have just word of mouth, and we know how things change through word of mouth. You play a game of Chinese whispers, and the person at one end hears something different to the person at the other end. It's this very, very quickly demonstrated that word of mouth is not very reliable. But now that we've got all these official documentations and everything is officially official, it's all completely officially official, there shouldn't ever be any problem ever again with the English language changing meaning. It's now locked in place. We don't need any new words. There aren't any new words to make up and invent, and so that's it for the English language. There won't be, it won't change anymore. And that's what he said. So my English teacher said that, which did genuinely surprise me. I didn't agree with him at the time, although back when I had this English teacher, I wouldn't say boo to a goose. So I definitely didn't have the courage to disagree with him, but I quietly thought to myself, no, I think you're wrong. Turned out that I was right on that particular instance. But it's still something that interests me. Still something that I find quite fascinating. That English, and well, any language, just how much it can change over time, despite the fact that we've got everything written down and standardized, and this is how this is. You know, this is what this word means, this is what this word means. No, that's not a word, you're just making it up, so therefore it doesn't exist. Despite that, new words are coming into use. New words are being invented on the spot. Yeet didn't come about by accident. Well, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Some kid said yeet instead of something else just because he thought it sounded cool. It got picked up. Other kids also thought that actually sounded pretty cool and started using it. And so the idea spread. And this is how most new words actually come about. And that particular word quite fascinates me, because the use of the word, like the first couple times I heard it, I was like, what on earth are they talking about? But when you think about it, it's actually, the word itself kind of fits the meaning. It sounds like something that fits the meaning. Some words you say and you think about it a bit, and they don't really seem to fit with their intended use. The word doesn't seem to fit the meaning of it. But then there are others that they do. They absolutely seem to fit together, and it seems perfect. It's a match made in heaven. And yeet just seems right for the use of the word. It doesn't feel like it's out of place. If someone says that word, it doesn't feel like it's the wrong word. It feels like it makes sense. And when someone says it, despite the fact that I'd never heard the word before when I first heard it, I still automatically knew what it meant. And that, maybe I had heard the word before and I'd heard it used in context, and my brain had already filled in the missing gaps as to what this strange utterance might actually mean, or it could just be that it kind of made sense just because of the sound of the word and the sentence it was being used in. Either way, it seems to me to be, it feels like it fits. It feels like it fits. And yeah, but anyway, I've rambled on about that for quite long enough. I've rambled for quite a while now. I'm going to leave this one going now from over this side, because we did stop, although I think in theory should be alright to carry on from that side of the field if I just tidied up the one little bit of the corner up over there. But I won't worry about it. So I'm on minus 82 euros right now. We are still ticking down through the money. We've got one fertilizer job on 21, and we've got one cultivating up on 5. Now, cultivating all the way up on 5. To be honest, I can't be bothered to drive up there. But the fertilizer on 21, I do want to do. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this here. And I'm going to go get the fertilizer spinner. We'll do that job so that we get a little bit more spare cash. So we'll take that one. And I will just accept the contract. I won't borrow items. So I'll accept that contract. We'll drive back home. We will get the fertilizer spinner. And then we'll run down to field 21. And we'll do that. And then once we've done that and we've gotten the money, See, we're already on minus 115, 16, there, 16, 17, you get the idea. So money is still ticking. Hired help these days, apparently you're expected to pay your employees these days, which I think is simply shocking, because how am I supposed to run a business if I'm expected to pay my employees at the same time? It just doesn't make any sense. I'm not sure that I like these whole labour laws. We're expected to pay people. I mean, if I give them a hovel to live in and throw a crust of bread at them once a week, surely they should be grateful for that. And just get on with things instead of expecting stuff like comfortable living conditions or pay. I mean, what... The next thing you know, you'll have them expecting to have rules at work, such as you're not allowed to beat them anymore when they step out of line. I mean, how are we supposed to run a business if you can't beat your employees every now and then? I don't know. It's shocking and absolutely appalling. So, we need to go and do this fertilizer job in order to be able to pay for the ungrateful workers that expect to have money in exchange for the privilege of being able to drive our tractor. It's my tractor, and I'm letting him drive it. What more does he want? How on earth can he expect to have money on top of the privilege of being allowed to drive my tractor? I don't see him driving around in his own tractor. No, he's coming here and driving mine. Let's take you. 1,000... Well, it's only a small field, so we don't need to buy fertilizer, which is quite fortunate, really. That's lime over there. Don't need to lime the field either. Don't need to worry about that. The grass field. So... Our grass planting, we will start that tomorrow. We're going to also want to get a little bit more money into the BGA, a little bit more silage into the BGA before nightfall, so that we can get more money for things over here. So at the moment, I think let's just have a look. We've got our potato harvester right there. That one's ready to roll. There are a couple of other things that we want to get. We need... It's all of the stuff that we're going to need for picking up the potatoes. That's going to be the more difficult thing, is picking these potatoes up off of the ground. That is going to leave them in a line. So we're going to have our work cut out, picking all of these potatoes up and putting them into a trailer of some kind. Now, I am wondering if we can tip out of the things that we got straight into a trailer. If we could possibly construct a ramp of some kind and do it like that. It'd definitely be easier if we could just build ramp, but we may not need to do that, because as we have already looked at previously, there is the... not in there is in here, and no, back belt systems, there's that one, and we don't know if that will tip into a trailer. If that one tips into a trailer, we can use it, and that'd be absolutely brilliant if it'll tip into a trailer. We're not sure if it will, though. Okay, I'm gonna stop there like that. I'm gonna bring that one back over here like that. Start it going along this bottom edge so that we don't drive into the fence when we do the rest of this. I'll get to the end of the row over here, and then I'll set the hired help going down this side of the field, and then that'll be that. Don't need to do any more to it. Right, that's plenty enough. Unfortunately, folks, that is all we have got time for today. A massive thank you to everybody who has earned their way into the Great Book of Names. To find out some more details about all the names coming past, please head into the description and click on the link to the Discord. It's a link to another video. The link is on the other video. Please also consider checking out the links there for Nitrado, who provide gaming servers for games like Farming Simulator, Minecraft, Ark, and several others. And there's also Fanatical, who will help support your gaming habit by providing you with cheap games and also giving me a small commission on anything that you buy using my link. If you've enjoyed this particular video, then please head down below and give us a like. And if you really enjoyed it, then please tell your friends all about me. Get them to come and watch as well. That would be awesome. And until next time, thank you very much for watching. This is Frithgar. Goodbye, and see you later.